Creating original illustrations from scratch has two parts. First, the concept or idea in the mind as to what to create and how it will look. So the part of the mind. And second is actually putting it on the canvas independently without the need to trace. Basically the construction of the face, the sketching phase, which is the part of the hand. Before learning the concept part, we will see the construction part. The steps I follow to create an illustration begins with a guideline to be able to create the sketch and the idea. So later on, to understand how to come up with the idea and actually do all the execution with that, we'll first see how to create the guidelines. For comic style face illustrations, we can have a face which is either straight, sideways or 3/4. And now for each of these, they could be facing up or down. In case of side and 3/4, we also have right or left. So let's look at how to create these guidelines for each of these. Then we do also have Procreate stamp brushes that you can use instead of creating them again and again. After watching this, you can download them from the resources section. But we should at least know how to draw these. It is very simple, no technical anatomy. Why we are learning this? Because if you wish to create any illustration on paper in sketchbook traditionally, then you should know how to create these guidelines. You cannot use stamps over there. If some people are very comfortable sketching on paper and then completing the illustration digitally, so it's very important for them to learn how to create this guideline. Others, I would recommend use the Procreate stamp brush to save time, obviously, because creating these guidelines again and again can be a tedious task. At least I don't like it personally. So first of all, only watch and observe, then it will be your turn to create these. And if you are someone who like creating while watching the video, you can replay the video and then again watch while creating. But first, try and observe what I'm doing. Start off with the front face, and that's straight. Draw a perfect circle by holding the Apple Pencil and then tapping on the screen. Divide it horizontally and vertically into halves. So the vertical line will extend outward so that we know where the chin would meet. So it takes a few attempts for me to make the line straight and then divide it. Sometimes tapping on the screen doesn't really help because it doesn't really look perfect, just like what you saw on screen. So you can just hold the Apple Pencil for a straight line. No need to tap on the screen and change the alignment of the line. After that, you can connect from the side till the line from both ends. Now in this case, no need to work on straight canvas. You can rotate it, zoom in and make the most of digital art. Obviously undo redo is great because it takes a lot of attempts for me to make it perfect. So take your time and work on this, but again I would recommend use the stamp instead. It's just that I'm showing you how it's made. And for the neck, make sure that the shadow on the stamps is just like for your guidance. The ears would always be as big as the eyes. So it starts from the eyebrow and like end where the eye is ending. This line is basically where the eye would be placed, and the distance between two eyes is basically another eye. So once you've placed the eyes and the eyebrows, then the nose and the mouth and everything else becomes very easy. Here I usually extend outwards from this line, not very much, but to show volume. You can start the eyebrows over there or on the line a little higher. This is cartoonifying stuff, so you can play around and mess around with it, but make sure it looks proportional. Now for the sideways, draw a line on whichever side you want it to face and a parallel line, again dividing the circle vertically, then horizontally again, and connect this line in the front to the part dividing the circle into half. So make sure that it's like meeting the line going into it like this. Then you can draw the ear, could be bigger, smaller, but basically place somewhere around here because the eyes would start from the line above and then would end accordingly. I usually draw the nose like this. I will show you an exact placement of features a few minutes later in the video, but this is just how the guideline is made. And again the neck, make sure the shadow in the neck is just for demonstration. So your shadow and neck would be based on how you are deciding one source of light. You will understand more about this in the shadows and highlights module, but basically make sure that the direction of the shadow on the neck is based on your source. For the 3/4, you can draw this vertical line like this, curved, and based on how turned the face is, you can draw it a little inwards and dividing the circle even more or not that much. Then connecting this could be tricky, so for that we draw a circle over here, draw a line and then connect like this. It's like two parts of the line, so After that, you connect the neck like this. Make sure that the neck is a little in front. You can place it in front or backward based on the reference also. Usually some people find it tricky to draw it leftwards or rightwards. So based on whichever way you're comfortable, you can flip the canvas. Sometimes flipping the canvas also helps you with seeing if it's proportionally right. So now it looks better. So you can create it on whichever side you're comfortable in and then flip it to make the most of the digital art tools available to you. Now for up, again, you can just draw a curve a little higher up on the circle, the same vertical line, connect the face. And since the face is looking up, it would be a little blocky, not very triangular. Could be angular, obviously, based on your art style. That depends on how you're placing the sketch, and that we'll talk more about in the art style module. But this is just the guideline. How you sketch over it on a new layer depends on your art style. You can soft edges. For down, again, the curve would be placed a little lower and this way because the face is looking down. And in this one, the chin would be very triangular because it's looking down. You observe yourself in the mirror or look at a photo or any reference. While looking upwards, the part of the chin is more quadrilateral. It has more sides. Now for for sideways, again, the slant line. If you want to face it upwards, draw it like that, and then again divide the circle and just connect. Draw the ear and you're ready to go. And obviously the neck, in this case, if you see when you bend your neck upwards, the front neck is curved like this and the back one is shortened like this because obviously the neck is bent. Now for looking down, it's not straight like this, it's slant like a tangent. So you can draw it like this. If sometimes you find it's looking too down or too up, you can obviously rotate it, which I'll do later. But this is how you make upwards or downwards. 3/4 again we'll do this. In this way, again we'll draw a curve for up. We'll draw it upwards towards the circle. Again this circular thing for knowing where the chin would end, and connect it like this in 2 parts. And for looking down, we'll again divide the circle horizontally with a curve placed very down on the circle. And this is how we can create these guidelines. Make sure that the line that you divide the circle with horizontally is the line where the eyebrows or eyes are placed. Now I'm showing you the placement. For the front face, it's very simple, very straightforward. Again, the rule of the distance between 2 eyes and other eye is just so that the face look proportional. If you want to exaggerate it, it's fine. But basically, if you think that the face is looking off, you can put this principle into place. We'll have a lot more detail of expressions in face and here in the next module. I'm just showing you the placement and how the things are placed. And when I switch off the guideline, you can see this is how the face looks. Doesn't really look that I use the guideline. Looks like very loosely I doodled or sketched. Remember, this is an illustration. An illustration is a drawing or a doodle that is meant to explain something. So in this case, this is trying to explain us that this is a face. So since we are using comic style illustration, a cartoonified version, it looks like it's a very loose sketch. Since it was made using a guideline, it is looking a simplified cartoonified version of a face. That is what we aim for. I really like traditional hand-drawn vibe in digital art, making the most of the tools. Now a demo of placing the features on a 3/4 face. Again, this is where the eyes would come. So I draw the eyebrows sometimes higher or above the line, sometimes lower, or sometimes on the line. After drawing the eyes, you draw the nose on this line, which is vertical obviously, and based on whichever art style you'll choose later on. And after that, just the mouth over here. You draw the chin. You don't have to follow this guideline chin to the T. You can make it rounded or blocky or angular or softer depending upon the art style. This is just a guideline of where the features would be placed. And again, drawing the hair, make sure that the parting would be according to this. If you're doing it with center, if you want it sideways, then it would look something like this. It would go beyond, and then because the other part is not much visible, the eye would look a little shorter and the eyebrows end wouldn't really be visible. Even the lashes wouldn't be visible, since in this one it's not turned way too much away from the screen and the line is a little more in the middle than towards the side. That is why the eyes and the lashes are a little more visible in this one. This is how it looks without the grid. Now for the sideways profile, I start with drawing the nose like this, and then the eyebrows. Eyes would look like this, the pupil would be in front, and then connecting the chin. Now I'm drawing straight here. Now for these complicated combinations, again, since the line is placed over there, I will draw the eyes. Now make sure that the pupil would be higher up because the face is looking upwards, and this is how the nose, because it's very stylized, so doesn't really matter how you're drawing it. The ears would also be a little upwards based on the position of the eyes, and this is how you can connect the neck. The shadow would be a little more because the face is upwards, and you will have more shadow since it's a little more far apart from the neck. And again, the hairline wouldn't come on face, it would be a little higher up, very close to the circle, and the back part of the hair wouldn't be very much visible. You just have to show a little bit of volume. Don't have to follow guideline to the T. Just like you can see the face that I drew, the curve I started is a little higher because I wanted a shorter face. Now there's a difference between where the face is looking and where the face is facing. So this is facing in the 3/4 direction, but could be looking sideways because of the placement of the pupils. So although the face is facing in the 3/4 direction, even in that direction the eyes could be moving and could see on the right or the left. Like this, I've placed the pupils towards the left side, and then again here would be as usual a little more towards backward because the face is tilted and looking up. So you can see when you look up, the head goes a little down, so the back part of the head or the hair would be a little more outwards. When you're facing down, then the features would be placed towards downside, very small, and the hair would look like this. More part of the head would be visible, so hence for the sideways, inner faces, chubby faces, whichever way, triangular, circular, blocky. Never start with the nose. Always place the eyebrows and then do the nose, otherwise your face might look off. Then in this one I'm making a tied up hairstyle. We'll talk more about hairstyles again in the hairstyle module, but this is how it would look, and the shadow accordingly. And I will switch off the guideline now so that you can see how these turned out. Not the best, but this was just a demonstration of, you can basically tell that face is looking up, that is looking down, and all of that. It's an illustration of a face looking up. Now you can use the rotation tool and then obviously place it. Now the shoulders basically tell that face is looking up, that is looking down, and all of that. It's an illustration of a face looking up. Now you can use the rotation tool and then obviously place it. Now the shoulders and how the face with respect to the neck and the shoulders placement will be based on the reference. This brings us to the end of the guidelines module. Now it's your turn to practice and create each of these guidelines, so that once you've tried and created each of these, later on you can use these stamps. You have them, you can download them. But make sure that right now you don't really know about features in here. So once you make the guideline on new layer, try to sketch out the face, and for demonstration purposes you can just draw 2 dots for where the eyes would be placed, the mouth and the nose, a triangle for nose, or just like that, and practice the placement of features right now. Later on, once we learn how to draw each of these features, then you can also practice with them. Currently you can just practice how to make these guidelines and then how to construct the face or sketch above that. You might like your sketchbook sketches more, or you might have drawn something on your sketchbook that you want to digitize or color digitally. If in the beginning you find creating the sketches on sketchbook easier than doing it digitally, then you can use this method to scan this and make sure that you adjust that if there's any spiral bound, adjusting the corners like this. And then you go to filters and you can select grayscale and make sure that if it's too bright or too dark, you adjust the lighting. So I think the pink light is the reason. You can save, insert photo. You can reduce the opacity further if you want, and on a new layer using the inking pen you can start doing the inking. Whichever way you're comfortable using the guides to do the sketches on the iPad or the sketchbook, practice both and decide for yourself. Make sure if you're doing it on the iPad you use a lower streamline brush. I use HP pencil. We'll see the expressions, the facial features, and here in more detail. Drawing from a reference, you break it down into following steps. Or if you don't want to use reference, we have something in mind or want to decide first, then refer an image accordingly. Instead of drawing from memory, you can see how things change, move, the shapes, etc. Observe and then create based on what you have in your mind. You can simplify the process by breaking it into smaller steps, so you can decide which kind of hair to draw. You have endless possibilities. So let me show you an interesting way to do this. So you first have the nature of the hair. So we are going to draw curly, straight, wavy, straight from top, curly from the end, and this all will come under the nature of the hair. Once you decide that, the second step is deciding the length, the cut, long, short, long from back, short from front. It's more like the dress up game or like that. So third one is the style, hairstyle, the way you're putting up the hair, open, close, tied. It also has two parts here, from the front or the back. So at the back it could be tied up, open, braid, ponytail, and how the face is framed, that's from the front. So whether you have flicks, fringes, bangs, and if none, then the parting could be center, back parting, side parting. Then comes the hair color. You don't really have to depend on reference for the color. You can actually use any color. If you're making fantasy illustration, you can even use purple, blue, and then you can also add streaks, ombre, and all of those coloring styles also that comes here. So maybe brown hair with pink glitter streaks, etc. And you can go crazy with it. Then number 5, do we want the hair to be visible? The hair is falling on top of the ear. Whether you have some accessory on the ear, only the accessory is visible from behind of the hair, or sometimes you want it stylized to the extent that the ear is not visible, the hair is coming on the face, but you have earrings placed on top. It's like communicating that this is where the ears are placed. It's an illustration, so you can do that. It's art, you can play around with it. So to draw here, we basically first do the face framing and then draw the overall shape by blocking. Based on the combination you decide or the reference, like in this case, maybe flicks or side parting. So this is how I want to draw straight here and long. Parting on the side and then blocking out shape, connecting it from the top, in the front, then the straight here like this, and depending on the length. Don't worry on how to render it. We can focus that and choose your style later in the art style module. Right now you have to explore, experiment, and how you finish it off really doesn't matter. We are sketching. You can add lines like this, you can color, you can leave as it is, you can do texture like this and do traditional coloring, draw waves, geometric lines. The way you want to render it can totally depend on how you slowly develop your art style. You can draw locks. You can do different for different illustrations. That is not the matter right now. We'll fix that and choose that and work on that in the art style module. Right now you understood how to draw the hair. Now for illustration, again, I usually can start with the ear, like to give you a starting point. Then you can frame the face. So maybe just the lines like this, and then if you want to draw straight shot here, it's just like a blocky like this. You could do soft edges instead of blocky. If instead of square shape, you can do circular, and based on reference you can have endless possibilities. Now let's see more examples. This was how to draw it. So the construction part. So first the face framing and then the blocking. Now let's see how to work with the combinations and what I just told you about in the previous step, and work together with that and this. Based on the previous step, I have a few combinations. On the side we have open, pony, half up or half down. On top we have short curly, long straight, and long curly. Now let's make the combinations. So you have these illustrations. I'm also showing you how I created these. So I framed the face and then I blocked the shape. So for each of these, you can see without reference, just picking few based on the steps I told you. At each step you make a choice, and then the combination you make helps you create your hairstyle, and then you have so many possibilities. You can change the length, the face framing, the nature, and this way you'll never run out of ideas. Number one, the way you want to draw flicks also depends on you. We can study more about that in the art style module. Don't worry about that as of now. We're just talking about the various different possibilities. And you can see, instead of those lines, I could also do this curly wavy lines for the hair like this. For back parting, usually I draw like this if it's straight. Otherwise I would use wavy line for curly and back parting, and this is like a ponytail and some hair over here. Then for curly, this is how I'm framing the face, some flakes and side parting, and then the hair. After that, for half up, half down, little back parting, long curly hair, because this is the long curly hair category. I'll later show you how to do that with reference. If you don't really know how to draw these, this comes with practice, so don't worry. Drawing few with reference, you can also draw without reference. And drawing from reference is not cheating. Please understand this. You are trying to observe and then put that on paper, and how things are reacting, how things would look. So observing is not cheating. Observing is the most essential part of creating art and being an artist. So if you're not able to draw it like this, that's perfectly fine. But these combinations enable us to do that even more easily than you could do it before actually knowing about the steps, I'm pretty sure. And now for the male character, this is how I'm doing. So for the curly side and for the straight side, you can do like this. Usually I don't really have much idea, but this way, forming combinations, you are allowed to think out of the box and make some combinations and come with unique hairstyles, new hairstyles all the time. When you do have reference also, and when you don't have reference, you can first pick combination and then look for references to see how a ponytail looks or how straight hair looks. And how you render that totally depends on you. This is the most symbolic way. This is like an illustration. So this is how the curved lines are illustrating curly hair. Then the center back parting. This is how I made this. So again, the center back parting. So this lines like this for male characters. You can draw lines backward and straight hair short. Now I think this is curly hair, side parting, long. To my surprise, with this method, I also have so many hairstyles for male characters. Now working with the references. It's great to work with reference and practice this way, and this will also open up the mental library, and this is very important for you to boost your creativity. Now you can see, you can observe how this is like a bun situation, I think, a lower bun. We have this flick here, parting in this, it's like a side parting, and you can also play around. If there is no ponytail or bun visible, you can draw it right here. You can use and even turned around 3/4 face, like the illustration is looking a little more in front, but my grid is a little towards the side. You can change up the grid, or if you want same, you can obviously play around and experiment and create something totally of your own. We have side parting, long hair. So I just want you to focus on the hairstyle right now. That is why we have the reference looking like this, so that we are not worried about the expressions or facial features right now. Just focus on drawing the hair and observing how they look. So side parting, blocking the shape, you can observe how I'm creating. The face, hair is coming on the face. So while doing the line art, you don't have to draw the part of the face that would go behind the hair. Or you could also do that if that's your style. In some comic styles, usually what happens is when the hair is coming on the face, the eyebrows would go behind the hair, right? But they can draw it on top. There was this very famous Netflix series, I think some cartoon series, and they did that art style, was very famous. A lot of YouTube videos describing that. Now for curly, we have these flicks on face, then kind of a side parting, so framing the face like this. A little ear is visible, few lines, just sketching it out first and then detailing it later on. And in the line art we can refine it further to actually see what's in front. See what I'm doing, there's a pattern. You face the frame, you connect the partings and then block the shape. We have flicks, we want to draw flicks. Depends on observing different artists, how they draw, how you want to simplify, what comes naturally to you, and a combination will enable you to decide how you choose to draw the flicks. Now you can draw the bun like this. I think in the reference it's a little higher up, so now for this one. This is a bun with back parting. So usually drawing back parting is difficult. I used to struggle a lot. So you can first draw these lines. So even in back parting, if you see, there are these lines like this. You can see, right? The face is framed this way. And then you can obviously draw the bun. Doesn't really look like the reference, and who wants to do that? We're just referring how the hair would look this way, how to draw it, observing it. And this is how you can. Now I don't think I like it how it's turned out, so you can go back and forth, undo, redo, try to do it differently, fix things if it's not looking good. I think the bun is a little higher up, or the hair I could show a little more volume over here, so could go a little far apart and then we can start. This is how the hairstyle looks. If I switch off the grid, oh my god. So such complex hairstyles with reference and simplifying you can draw, and gives you a variety of different hairstyles for working with your illustrations, with people comic style illustrations. Now it's your turn to first make combinations and choose the nature, or you can choose the one that I have and then practice based on the combination, creating on the grid these hairstyles the way I taught you. First face framing and then blocking shapes, and then based on these references, and you can collect more references, try and follow the same steps of imagining the combination, the nature of the ear and all, breaking it down that way, then framing the face and blocking the shape. Now we'll work on facial features. First we'll observe some nose, mouth and eyes, and then break them down into smaller parts and simpler shapes. For that we'll refer comics as to how to do that, and when we'll decide which all parts to include to just demonstrate that okay, this is the eye, this is the nose placed here, just like you see on this comic and characters and all different. You can refer on Pinterest, books, graphic novels, whatever, but you can see very simple features. You can see just lines for the mouth, simple 2 circles for the eyes. There are various different ways you can add a little more detail, make it a little realistic, keep it super simple, make a combination of a little realistic eye but a simpler mouth. So how to simplify, we'll refer comics, but first let's break each of these features down into smaller steps, and then we'll decide which all parts do we want to include in the illustration. We'll also brush this up later in the art style module and decide further as to what kind of method we want to use for creating eyes and what art style we prefer. You don't have to stick to one. So let's begin. So if you see, I'll change the color of the brush so that you can see. The first part of the eye is this white part, which is the eyeball. Then we have this colored part, which is the iris. Then the pupil, which is this black part. We have the lid, which is denoted by this crease line and the lash line on top. Then we have the tear duct. We have the lower and the upper lash line with lashes. So these are a few parts that make up the eyes. Now which all parts you want to include totally depends on you. So let me show you some examples, and I want you to practice once this video is over. Draw a few eyes, experiment, explore. Not in order to choose one or stick to one, but in order to explore different ways. Only when you have the options you can pick, right? So give yourself options, explore, experiment, create art that's bad, make mistakes, no worries. Just explore different ways. So you can either just draw this curved line. Also, while drawing different eyes, try and draw both the eyes so that you know whichever one is comfortable for you to draw both ways, making the most of the digital tools. But if you don't prefer this method, then try creating both the eyes together. We here are just trying to communicate that, okay, this is a face illustration because this dot is an eye. Do is just have the top lash line and maybe just the pupil. But this way the eyes look a little surprised. So you can place it on top of this, or you can also have both the lash lines. I'll draw this like this. You can also have a closed shape for the eye like this. And then just place either the pupil, or in the closed shape itself you can have the iris and the pupil, both of them. So just this shape and the iris and the pupil, or in the shape itself you can also add this crease for the lid and lashes and lower lashes. What I usually do, I kind of stylize the lower lash line and lashes in a way. I'll show you how I create it. So I create this line like this, a few lashes, then a crease for the lid, then just this line for the lower lash line, and then exaggerate the lower lashes. And then obviously wherever the person is looking or the illustration is looking, I place the pupil like this. You can have a color filled dot for the pupil or a hollow one like a ring. You can also do this thing. So you create like this circle thing like this. You can also draw eyebrows while practicing if you want, but that's not something that you should focus on right now, because obviously for the expressions, eyebrows play a very important role. But while deciding how you want to draw eyes or what are the different ways you can draw eyes or explore or experiment, it's up to you if you want to draw eyebrows or not. And yeah, I was saying that for the eyes you can also have different colors for different characters like lavender, lilac and all of this, brown, and actually having the color part of the iris like this. In this one also you can simply always just leaving it, instead of just leaving it white, you can add colors like this, a little more detailed. I really like how it's looking. Then you can also play around with the shape of the eyes. So instead of this normal almond shape, you can have this kind of a shape, and especially for a very angry or a disgust look or a different kind of an expression, just a plain kind of an expression. Now if you want to get inspired as to how to simplify eyes, you can observe a lot of different comics or graphic novels like this, and have a look at how they have simplified eyes. In this one, they've just maybe used the iris and also filled it black. In this one, you can see this is a surprise look, so pupil is in the middle. Usually what happens is either it's connected to both of the lash lines, or the top one or the bottom one, based on where it's looking like this. And you can see in this one, it's like the iris and the dot, the pupil, and this one also the iris, but maybe the iris is black in this case. Very simplified. In this one they've chose to add reflections, so depend on the details you want to add. And over here a very anime style, so very stylized. It's up to you whether you want to add the white part of the eyeball or just want to leave it with skincare. This one for the Disney movies, refer characters, cartoons, movies, books. You can see this one very rounded. Over here they've just used dots. Okay, it's a little pixelated because obviously placed on the canvas, but you get the point. Then over here very big eyes on a very chibi art style face. Then over here a complete shape and then just the iris. Over here you can see different ways. Go to Pinterest, or you can go to Instagram, Pinterest, observe artists, comics, books, cartoons, Disney movies, and see how they simplify eyes. And obviously don't only observe, try to draw that and put that on canvas and see whether you actually enjoy creating that as well. Then you have a lot of different options, and you can see out of them what all are the ways you can create eyes, and then you can experiment and play around, and later in the art style module even go further to break it down into even smaller steps to pick the kind of eyes you want to make or want to use. In most of your illustrations you can obviously keep changing that, no rules in art, but to make things simplified and to have things sorted. So let's try a little different kind of eye right here. So if I want to draw this anime style of eye, so it's like a very prominent and dark lash line like this. We don't really have the lower lash line, but when they colored the white, it looks like the lash line is there. Then they have this kind of a very big eyeballs. Obviously, after observing the way you create, will have your own flavor to it. And then we can have like a colored iris, and then they've used white or black. Looks very bad. So clearly I don't like anime eyes, and I can't really draw them as well, even though it's good to look at it. But you can then, if you want to draw anime eyes and something like this is happening with you, observe a little a different anime eyes, different characters with anime eye style, and you can like obviously search on Pinterest. For all of this I searched comic art on Pinterest, and all of this came up. So this is like a wing situation, and then since she's looking down and reading the book, the eyeballs like this. So you also, while playing with the expressions, you will also have to understand whichever parts you choose to create your eye, you will observe in different expressions how they behave. For example, you see the pupil comes into the center, becomes very small, the eyes are wide open when the person is shocked, for the shocked expression, and obviously the eyebrows and mouth also, so that if you want to draw a single character in different expressions, you at least have a uniform way of drawing the eyes for each. Then you also have this kind of an option, a very realistic one like this. And then you can also add the white reflection. So that was for eyes. Practice a lot after this video. Now mouth has two ways. Either you want to create an open mouth or a closed mouth. If you break down this, you see this is usually a curved line, and especially when the mouth is a little open, it's usually dark. Then there is just this simple curved line over here, and this is also curved out like this. Now it's up to you. Based on this information, you can either just draw a line like this, so simple straight line for a normal face, happy, sad, but you can go an extra mile and create this line and then just this, or you can also create this line, and also the top part, which sometimes becomes difficult. So in that case, you can just draw a simple line, little curves, and this. Or you can draw simple line, simple curve, and curve like this. If you darken this line, it looks like a little pout. Then you can do the same thing, but with curve. One way you can do is just draw this line. Instead of actually doing the line art for the top and the bottom part, you can just use some color to denote these parts and not use the line art at all. Or you can also just draw this line, just draw this part, and instead of the top part for the line art for the top part, you can just use color like this. Now for color also, you can just use curved lines or just this way like I did here. Now let's observe few comics for the closed mouth and how they've done it. So they've just drawn few lines and then used color. Sideways also we'll see. Over here they've like shown teeth, so it's like few lines and a closed mouth. Over here, as I told you, no line art for the top and bottom. There is a line art for bottom as such, but yeah, these are for open. We'll later see open. For a frustrated face, again you can do like this, or like for an angry or frustrated face, instead of drawing this middle part like this with curves, If you draw it like this, it would look happy. If you draw like this, it would look sad. Now you can exaggerate by drawing the upper lip or not, like this. You can also just draw like this. Usually what happens is the upper part is a little darker than the lower lip, so you can also just fill in color like this. Very stylized. You can experiment, explore, look, observe, draw yourself and see what you like. Now let's go to open mouth, because we have a lot of examples right here. They've just used a single line. Over here they're like open and just a little smiles. Let's move on to the open one. This part of the lip becomes a little straight because of getting stretched. Then we have the teeth, which you don't have to draw a lot of details. This part is usually black. And I would first draw a circle, then draw the teeth. Obviously it's little darker at the side, and like this. You can either draw the tongue, or what I do is I simplify it even further and just fill in the color again and just draw this line to show the lips. You can also just draw this reverse D like you saw in the comics. We'll see and go back and see again. For smiling, you can also just draw this line to show teeth. Then if you want, you can draw a little more detail. The sides usually are black when the person's teeth are shown. Depends on if you're drawing a younger character, then the gap could be a little more on the side. If you want like this, you can also decrease the black part. Then we can also draw this with lips. So you can just draw lips like this over here. A thinner D. Then a reverse for disgust or sad, like this. For shocked or surprised, an O. Then let's go and see some comic characters and observe. So let's try and create this shocked one right here. So it's like a reverse D and angular like this. The teeth is shown and you can fill the rest. Very cool. Then for this, they have, in some they have the tongue, in some they're just showing the white teeth. So the white, you can just leave this D white to show the teeth, or you can add teeth separately, add the tongue, and the rest is black, and fill a pink color for the tongue. So you see how to actually break down these features into simple lines and shapes. Now let's observe nose and break it down into simple steps. So for the longest time, I didn't used to draw nose. So basically my characters would look like this. In most of my art, I was just basically looking at this shape. So I'll draw over this. Looking at this shape, it's basically a line and then like this, a very triangular situation. So in front facing also, I usually just draw it like this. Break it down into even smaller parts like this, or you can also, so basically this curve and this curve right here, and then with that you can also draw the line on top. Let's go and observe different comics and how they simply. So in this one you can see just drawn these two lines and a very thin one right here, two lines again. In this one they've used my wave, but they also add a little shadow here, obviously with another color, not black, but yeah. Over here also the way I draw, but even more curved. And you can also just draw nose like this, just a little line for the nose. You can see how simplified you can make it. In different profiles you can play around, like in the side one you can draw like this, in the front one you can draw like this. Now usually what happens is when the guideline is in the side profile, I draw nose like this. And for the mouth, what I do, instead of actually a realistic one, I just draw it like this. It looks very cartoonized and very comic style. That's totally up to you. You could also just do it normally, and if I were to draw it in the normal way, what I would do, the same method, I would draw the line like this and only this part. But what I do, I draw it here So this depends on your style. In different profiles, how you place a lot. So fill a canvas with some eyes, nose and mouth. Don't worry about making mistakes. If you are not able to make some ways, like I wasn't able to make anime eyes, that's perfectly fine. You are supposed to create what you like, what you want, right? So sometimes you observe something, you like it, and you are also able to create it. So that is the sweet spot. That is where the balance is. Remember to enjoy and explore and actually express yourself. I'm just helping you out to be able to express yourself better and make it a little easier for you. Let's get started with the expression study. So we'll first observe the expressions of the same person, same reference in different expressions. And then we'll do different kind of expressions in different people. So eyebrows play a very important role in expression and expressing emotions. Obviously, just 2 eyes and the mouth are enough as well if you see the emojis. But then eyebrows add another extra layer and it becomes super expressive with just 2 lines literally. The way you want to draw eyebrows totally depend on you, and you don't really have to choose that right now. Over here we just seeing how each of these features react in different expressions. If they're coming closer apart, the eyeball, the pupil, the mouth, whichever parts you choose to create to denote eyes. So for the normal face, this is more like an expressionless and sad face. This is the way I create eyes. So I simply just see that the upper lash line is kind of curved, and then you have the pupils or the iris placed towards the upper lash line. Now you see the distance between the eyebrows and the eyes is significant, but in the angry face the eyebrows become straight and they're like bent inwards, and the distance is quite diminished literally. So you can see this is what is a very important feature in an angry face. Simply draw the way you want to draw nose. That's not important right now. We can focus on that in the art style module, how you want to create. But you see, this is how I'm going to draw the eyebrows, whichever way. If you just want to draw outline of an eyebrow, then this is how you're going to draw it. No further distance between the eyebrows and the eyes as such. You can also have another line below the eyebrow. I usually like to exaggerate the lower lashes like this. And then the eyeballs are usually attached on top with the eyebrows, and you can draw the lashes because I just forgot to draw them. And usually try to draw both the eyebrows first and both the eyes first. In this way, there are less chances for you to make them totally different. You can obviously select and duplicate, but this way it's easier for you to make them similar. For the happy one, the eyebrows would go outwards and bend. It's a little curved. So angry, it bends inward. In happy, it bends outward. So they're moving far apart. And also so they're like far apart also, and then curved also and bent also. So whichever way you want to draw the face, you can draw the face. It's a happy. You can draw an open face or the closed one. And because of the eyebrows, even if you draw a closed one and not showing the teeth, you can see that it was looking very happy. You can draw the teeth or choose not to draw teeth. In the reference I can see, so let's draw them. And even more curved upper lashes or lash line, and then inwards and a little smaller, because when you're smiling or laughing, your cheeks go up, your eyes become small. You can observe yourself in the mirror and you can make expressions yourself. Click yourself and then you can observe and draw. You can see that the eyes are placed on both the lash line in this case, because again they become smaller, come closer. For the sad one, you can see that in both cases they kind of move outwards and bend. In the sad one, although it's quite straight, they're far apart but they're straight like this. For happy, they're kind of curved and far apart. So these little things makes a lot of difference. Based on different references, the way the facial features are reacting, because obviously the person might be looking here and there in the reference. So things change. Observe different images for angry, different for happy, sad. Observe yourself also. Pictures, cartoons, everything. And then see how each of them are reacting and then try to translate it. This is basically how you study art. This is the real meaning of studying art. And if you've seen professional artists and they like studying art and all, this is what you basically do. Observing is a part of the art, and observing is an art. So yeah, let's move on to the next expression. It's a little more happy. So eyes are even smaller, mouth is even wide open. So you can make this bigger D with the teeth. And in this case, I'm just trying it's because it's open, so the upper teeth are enough, like this. You can either leave it here also if you don't really want to draw details of the eyes, because like to show a super happy face, place the pupils. You can experiment and try and place them on the upper lash line, lower lash line, in between, on both, and see what looks good to you. It's not like a rule of thumb that you have to just do it as the reference, because you're not actually drawing portraits here that it has to look like a reference. You're just referring as to how things behave. You don't have to draw from memory, right? So you can just see and then try to play around with it and do the magic and do the art. In the surprised one, you can see they're even more curved. So the length of the eyebrows becomes shorter that way. Just simple circle for the surprised mouth. And a little curved top lash line, just a dot in the middle, so they don't really in the reference it might be touching because I think they've drawn the iris, but if you would want to draw the pupil, it wouldn't really touch any of the lash line. This is how I've observed comic artists and characters draw surprise, as we saw in the facial features thing. So you have to not only see the reference, but go and see how different artists play around with expressions and depict expressions. And I almost forgot to draw the mouth for the angry one. You can draw an upside down one. You can draw a blocky one to show anger and like the teeth and like this. You can see just because of placing the eyebrows like this, even though you're showing teeth, it doesn't look that it's smiling because the edges are softer. They are not like smiling and they're not going apart in the D situation. So this is how the expression would look. Let's move on to the next one. Now we have different people, different expressions. So I've tried to find expressions that are so different that are not very commonly found, very different expressions to add a lot of character to your illustrations. Let's begin with this one. I've used a 3/4 face looking up guide. Now you can see in the reference, the part that's not much visible, like not towards the screen, the proportion is way lesser. And in my guideline, because I'm using the same guideline, it's usually placed towards the middle. You can redraw the guideline and change that if you want it exactly, but we're just referring few things over here, studying, so it doesn't really matter if it's not looking exactly. And based on that, you can see the shape of the eye or how much eye or eyebrows are visible, depends. In my case, it would be a little more visible than how it's looking in the reference, because obviously the part that's not visible is very less. So drawing these lash lines, because the eyes are closed, and like a straight line for the top lash line, smaller iris or pupil, the lash line for the lower lash line would go up, and the mid part of the mouth is like reverse the line, if you see. And so usually what you do is you draw the lower lip like this line, but since the face is made that way, your curve of the lower lip would also change like this. And you can see it's looking so cool. If you don't want to draw those boring simple expressions all the time and you want to just go overboard, irrespective whether it's a male reference or a female, you can obviously just add lashes or make the eyebrows bushy or not, and you can translate that into whichever kind of male or female character you're making. The way the features would react will be same for male and female character, right? It's just that if you draw them differently, they would look different. So one eye is open wide, the other one is squinted kind of this way, the nose is made that way like this. There's this curve, the mouth is like this. You can already see that it's like a rectangle that's like squished. You can just go ahead and break that into smaller shape, or you can simply in the cartoon style draw a disgusted face. I was not very happy with how the eyes look. Let's retry it. So this eyebrow is looking like this, the other one is going a little downwards. You draw this line, the crease that you can see, Not much distance between the eyebrow and the lid line or the upper lash line. Where the person is looking is where the pupils will be placed, irrespective of where the person is facing. Always remember this. Drawing both the eyes together makes it easier for you to place the pupils in a way that they're looking. You know that you can actually depict where they're looking. Otherwise, sometimes what happens is one pupil is in center, one is in the side, and doesn't really look aesthetically pleasing. Obviously, you can go ahead, undo, erase, and go back and forth. You're an artist, not a magician, that in one go you can fix everything. In this one, you have like this simple face. Now this, you also, just like male female references, and you can play around and observe, people from different nationality have different facial features, and everyone is beautiful in their own way. So you can only refer expression and nationality for if you want to draw a person from a different nationality, but you want an expression from a different person. You'll see that in the mood boarding and referencing module, how to go about that. So right now, just focus on how the eyes and eyebrows are reacting instead of making them the way they're looking. So draw the way you want to draw. You want to draw bigger eyes, smaller, whatever, but the distance between the eyebrows and the eyes, the lines, the curves, if you want to draw the mouth, how the line would look. A winged liner situation, and smaller eyes like this, looking in the side. Sometimes if you place the eyes too far apart, they don't look good, so you can reposition it in the sketch layer only so that it doesn't pixelate. If you're struggling to make the mouth, you can simply do it like this. Or if you see that the mouth is like a rectangle, if you know the lips, the closed part has a shape like this. This is the shape. Not really triangle, a rounded end. Let's try to translate that and put like this, a little smaller. And placing it, the placement of the mouth also plays a big role. So if the person is angry, you can obviously, if it's cringy, angry, disgust, you can place it on the side. Sad also, placing it on the side helps a lot. I really like to do that. Then this kind of expression looks very different. You can try and create exact same expressions and reference, and then also go ahead and find more references, create faces yourself, and try to translate that and simplify them into simpler shapes. Now for this one, just drawing the upper lash line. The nose would go this way, the curve. And usually drawing the curved top lips like this actually adds a lot of character, especially when you kind of making a pout face or a face like the one in the reference. Purposely not making them straight and diagonal really helps into going an extra mile for cartooning. Based on the shape of the size of the guideline, the size of the features really matter. If on this kind of face grid size you place very small features, they would look very off proportionately. So usually try and draw bigger. Zoom in the canvas if you have the habit of drawing small, or you can draw small and then enlarge it. Make the most of digital. One, you can draw mustache or not. The eyebrows are bent in a way, the shape of the eye, all of that. Now in this one, this one is squinted, the other one is quite normal. One eyebrow is a little higher up, I believe. Or you can do that, you can exaggerate that. If one eyebrow is straight and the other is a little raised kind of situation, like in the top one, you can also use that and exaggerate that in this one. So I kind of placed it a little higher. You can see that the teeth, when closed, you can just draw this line to show that part. Simple. Not joining completely because the teeth usually are like this, so it's okay if what you're trying to do doesn't really come up that way. It's fine, it's art. It would end up looking somewhere different, and that's experiments lead to beautiful coincidence and beautiful creations and inventions and art. In this one, the eyes I'm trying to draw a little smaller because it's like a very almost close but not really close, but I don't know what to call this expression, but you can draw the lines for the lids a little far to show that the eyes are a little closed. And just play and enjoy, please. Don't forget to do that. That's art, it's not maths. Maths is fun, I'm not saying that, but if you like maths, that's great. But basically, don't make it boring. Enjoy, because you like art. You want to make art, not because someone's telling you to. So enjoy it. So I really like how this turned out, and it's your turn to practice expressions. Now, same person, different expression, and now this one. And then don't stop there. Go ahead and explore different expressions on Pinterest, Instagram, movies, yourself. For an angry face, look at different features and draw different angry faces. This was just the first module of my program. I hope this video was helpful. I create videos related to digital illustrations in Procreate, character portrait illustrations, doodling, etc. And if you use Procreate app or just got an iPad and started using it for digital art, and drawing doodle style character portrait illustrations excites you even with no prior experience, then I have a great news, a very special announcement. Discover the true potential of your iPad. Does any of this sounds familiar? You always wanted to draw face illustrations but find it difficult without tracing pictures. You are able to create following tutorials, but when it comes to creating something original on your own independently from imagination, you feel helpless. Or you wanted to develop your own art style, one that's fun? Then let me tell you, I've been there too. And I decided to share my knowledge and 6 years of experience with you all so that you can also get the experience of this fulfilling feeling of creation. Imagine being able to draw doodle style original character portrait illustrations from imagination on your own in Procreate in your own art style without being dependent on tutorials or the need to trace with hand-drawn vibe yet professional comic style rendering in just 20 days. Too good to be true? Not anymore. I can't believe I'm finally launching the 20-day masterclass by the digital doodler Ria. This is not just any other course. This program is designed to get you results. Instead of wasting time on what needs to be done, focus all your energy in actually doing it and leave the what on us. This program is like a GPS, making sure that the journey to your dream destination is guided and fun-filled with structured, practical steps. Projects at end of modules you get to practice as well as start building your portfolio during the program itself. The program is designed keeping in mind people from non-arts background also, so no technicalities, and people with busy schedule, because this certified program has the best of both worlds. Benefits of studying in a batch while learning at your own pace any time of the day with recorded modules, keeping in mind your busy schedule. Get access to a community of like-minded people from across the world. This is obviously a certified program, and those who are also interested in learning how to create doodle style portrait of people and not just character illustrations, you are lucky, because the first few people to enroll will also get a bonus masterclass of creating comic style people portrait, and this is a limited time offer. Dedicated the last 2 years of my life putting this together and making this whole experience wholesome with the ease of access on your mobile apps and your personalized dashboard. Learning to construct the face sketch in different profiles, stylizing facial features, expression and hair, exercise to develop a fun art style true to you, exercise to come up with original concept ideas, drawing from imagination, line art techniques, picking up colors, about adding shading, shadows and highlights to absolutely any illustration, more techniques of drawing from imagination, drawing from briefs, and getting started with doodling. I'll be sharing my own process and more is waiting inside the program. The seats are limited. Secure your spot from the link in description for the next available batch if we have seats available by the time you're watching this video. I wish you happy learning. Keep creating.